across something tonight regarding the election down ballots, which I've talked about previously. We had this group of data scientists across the nation who came together and wrote Kamala Harris a letter about the down ballots and the nefarious shit that was going on. Well, in December of 2024, they came together and founded a nonprofit called the Election Truth Alliance. And I am on their website right now because I came across something. They are analyzing all of the data in all of the swing states, and they have finished their Nevada analysis. And I'm going to read you a little bit here. So just what is the Election Truth Alliance, first and foremost? The Election Truth Alliance is a grassroots, nonpartisan organization founded in December 2024 when multiple individuals came together to share independent data, analysis, and research into the results of the 2024 U.S. presidential election. As concerning trends emerged from our shared data, we moved quickly at the speed of trust to make our findings more accessible and understandable to the broader public. We are a nonprofit corporation. Okay, so if you go to their analysis, the 2024 election analysis, so far they have finished Clark County, Nevada, and they are currently analyzing the swing states of North Carolina, Wisconsin, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Georgia. And I'm going to read you a little bit about this with Nevada. So Clark County is the most populous county in Nevada, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. It is home to approximately 70% of the state's population. Of the 2.3 million residents, about 1.5 million are registered to vote. This includes approximately 485,000 registered Democrats, around 393,000 registered Republicans, and a combined total of about 646,000 voters registered with third parties or with no party affiliation. Key findings. Using the cast vote record, CVR, data for Clark County, the Election Truth Alliance has identified voting pattern anomalies of significant concern. Our analysis uncovers unusual phenomena in the early voting results not present in election day voting and mail-in voting results. Drop-off difference. The term drop-off votes refers to the votes cast for a presidential candidate versus the votes cast for a down-ballot candidate of the same party. In Clark County, as was the case across the swing states in the 2024 U.S. presidential election, there is a significant difference between Trump's drop-off rate, plus 10.54%, and Harris's drop-off rate, plus 1.07%. Increased volume of votes linked to greater discrepancies. The greater number of ballots cast and processed in early voting, the more Trump's vote count increased while Harris's vote count decreased. The pattern is more distinct. Closer to 60% votes for Trump, closer to 40% votes for Harris, with more ballots processed by a given tabulator. Abnormal clustering. In contrast to election day voting, early vote results display an unusual pattern. Once approximately 250 ballots have been processed, a visible shift is observed, resulting in a high degree of clustering and unusual uniformity. This is a departure from expected human voting behavior. And they have a ballot casts, mail-in voters, 443,823, early voters, 395,438 total, election day voters, 194,024 total. Of the mail-in voters, Harris received 61% of recorded presidential votes, Trump 36%. That's a huge difference, guys. Early voters, Harris 40% of recorded presidential votes, Trump received 59% of recorded presidential votes for early voters. On election day, Harris received 47% of recorded votes and Trump 50%. CVR data is significant because it shows an on ballot by ballot basis how votes in Clark County were recorded. It notes whether ballots were cast in mail-in votes, early votes, or election day votes. Provisional ballots are not included. Notably, Clark County CVR data shows the numbers associated with a given tabulation machine labeled tabulator num, including how many ballots were processed. All mail-in ballots were tabulated by 6 machines. They go on to explain drop-off vote comparison, and they explain the term drop-off votes. I'll read that part to you. The term drop-off votes refer to the votes cast for a presidential candidate versus the votes cast for a down-ballot candidate of the same party. The term highlights the number of voters who voted for president but skipped voting in lower races like the Senate or House races. And they had two Senate races, a Jackie Rosen, Democrat, running against a Sam Brown, and they use this in the comparison. And then they've got a bunch of data points and tables in here with legends to go through. But I'm going to read I'm not going to go through all of that. Expected randomness in the early voting results are observed until approximately 250 ballots have been processed. Beyond that range, a visible shift is observed once the number of ballots processed exceeds the threshold, resulting in a high degree of clustering and unusual uniformity. They have this in bold. A departure from expected human voting behavior. This pattern is more distinct, closer to 60% votes for Trump, closer to 40% votes for Harris, with more ballots processed by a given voting machine. So the summary is, after approximately 250 early voting ballots were processed by a voting machine, a shift is observed in the reported voting patterns. Instead of a chaotic expected distribution, the vote percentages start to shift more heavily in Trump's favor. This pattern is not found in Election Day vote. With Election Day votes, the results for both candidates aligns with normal distribution. It largely follows the bell curve. With early votes, however, there is an inexplicable shift. In particular, note the sharp increase in the number of tabulators that show Trump receiving around 60% of the vote, the tall red bars that fall outside of normal distribution. The pattern above shows an inexplicable spike in vote distribution that is statistically unlikely based on typical human voting behavior. It also resembles a phenomenon referred to as a Russian tail, where an anomalous deviation from normal distribution can be an indicator of unfair elections. Such a spike may indicate election result falsification, particularly if only one candidate appears to benefit. More information about voter turnout relative to county precinct and additional analysis may be needed in order to definitively confirm the presence of this phenomenon in Clark County early voting results. The Russian tail has appeared in elections wherein Russian election manipulation is suspected. Recently, it has been cited as evidence of Russian meddling in the 2024 Georgian parliamentary elections, the country of Georgia. While such a deviation in the data could potentially still emerge, this does not explain why the pattern is limited to early voting. As in that scenario, it would be reasonable to expect the same deviation to appear in Election Day results. Instead, Election Day results indicate a normal expected variation. The clustering represented in the early voting data still appears unusually severe. I do want to read you their findings here. Very interesting stuff. So, data suggestive of vote manipulation. In the absence of hand recounts or other investigative measures, the artificial-looking gap and heavy skew in Clark County early voting data is concerning. There is a common misconception among the American electorate, this one hurts, promoted or contested at times by political parties, that the country's elections are secure. And I read this in that letter in November, so I know this. Cybersecurity and election security experts have confirmed that this is far from accurate. On November 13th, 2024, a group of election and cybersecurity experts contacted Kamala Harris, urging her to initiate hand recounts of paper ballots in key swing states, and they were silent. Their concern stemmed from multiple election security breaches that occurred between 2020 and 2024 involving election systems and software, ES&S, and Dominion voting systems machines, in which software for the central servers, tabulators, and highly restricted election databases for both voting system vendors was compromised over a multi-year period. These experts say this was the most severe election security breach publicly known. The Nevada Secretary of State website lists voting systems in use in the states here, and they have a link. The list prominently features both ES&S and Dominion voting machines. While Nevada does conduct risk-limiting audits, these cybersecurity and election security experts stated that in most states, the audits are insufficiently rigorous to ensure any potential errors in tabulation will be caught and corrected. Worryingly, these experts emphatically state that such safeguards do nothing to protect the integrity of the ballots in cases of security breaches that have occurred. According to Nevada's risk limiting audit report published November 20th, 2024 by the Nevada Secretary of State, a total of 220 ballots in the state were audited using a ballot comparison method. Though in alignment with the procedures of this type of audit, that represents only 0.01% of Nevada's ballots. So they go on with a bunch of questions that they have on the data and to analyze more information, but they have their next steps. Sharing our findings with local media outlets, politicians, and experts in Nevada. We are particularly interested in the opinion and insights from John Ralston of the Nevada Independent, whose November 4th, 2024 article characterized the 2024 Nevada early vote as, quote, different from any since this data was kept in such detail. Also would like to seek additional review, interrogation, and corroboration from their analysis. They want to reach out directly to Clark County and the Nevada Secretary of State to request the opportunity to seek clarification on outstanding questions, discuss our findings, and express the seriousness of our concerns. We also intend to strongly urge the investigative steps and hand recounts to advance our shared objectives of ensuring the vote of every eligible Nevadan is counted fairly and reinforcing confidence in the results of Nevada elections. If the cost associated with investigative measures and/or hand recounts is prohibitive, the ETA is willing to discuss potential cost-sharing agreements. So go to this website, I have it here, electiontruthalliance.org, and read this report and share it everywhere. This is serious stuff. And if Kamala Harris and Joe Biden would have listened, we may not be where we are right now with the Third Reich coming into power in the United States. This is why I am so upset at Democrats. Go to this and look at it. They've got a ton of data on here. And if you're a data scientist or you know how to read these things, maybe you can provide a little bit more information to people as well. But yeah. Oh. Share this everywhere.